Today, we'll be talking about the first Super 4 fixture of Asia Cup 2023 between Pakistan and Bangladesh at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore. In the show, we will also tell you how Afghanistan did a South Africa in that they lost their chance at Super 4s due to a calculation error. That's not all. After the Indian squad announcement yesterday, we asked the question, is this Indian team good enough to win the World Cup? Jamie Alter is here with us, as is Chetan Narula. Both will agree that this squad has a lot of ifs and buts around it. It's not a team that looks strong in every department. It's a team that has stopgap players to fill in the holes in different areas. It's not a team that has one or two players in absolutely red-hot form, which will be important in the tournament. Overall, it's a team that's a safe team. But is it a winning team? Could they have taken some risks? We'll ask all these questions to Chetan and Jamie, and I'm sure they will agree with me in that this is going to be difficult for India, not just in the Asia Cup, but if this is the team that they have for the World Cup, unless something drastic happens, somebody just hits peak form, from here on, things are not going to be easy for India, guys. Chetan?
Hello, Meha. Hello, Jamie, and hello to all our viewers. Yes, that is the fear. That is the fear going ahead into this World Cup season. And we have discussed this time and again that at the moment, given the way both the batting and the bowling has been looking a bit undercooked, Shami and Siraj, I was telling Jimmy the other day, it looked like they were partying in the Maldives and just got off bed and came to bowl in the game against Nepal. That's how it looked like. And, no rhythm, no anything really. And just so undercooked. Same thing for batting. Our top four haven't had any overs under their belt. Well, now, yes, with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill having scored those runs, but against Nepal. So, the concern is there, yes. But again, there is, 6 matches, including, not including 2 warm-ups, of course. There are 2 warm-ups before the World Cup as well. So a run of 8 games and maybe somebody can go on a bit of a form, both the batting, the bowling finding some rhythm. And the World Cup in itself is a long tournament. The good thing is that it's happening at home. So, I think the minimum target from here onwards is to get to the semi-final, and from there onwards, anything can happen on that particular day.
Now, there's a lovely article in the Indian Express written by Sriram Veera, which just sort of tells you exactly how we all feel at the moment. If you haven't read it, please go read it, where he's talking about these ifs and buts, where he's talking about how, India have tried to find solutions for these what-if questions. We're going to discuss that in details with Jamie and with Chetan. But let's talk about the first game of the Super Force. It's Pakistan versus Bangladesh, with Pakistan's place in the Super Force confirmed after the washout with India. Number 1 ranked team, Pakistan, are back home and playing the second place team of Group B, Bangladesh, in Lahore. So this is the big game, first big game of the Super Force. Both teams have flown from Sri Lanka to Pakistan, and it's Bangladesh who have the sterner test ahead of them today. Not only will the heat of Lahore be a challenge, but the fire breathed by the home team's brilliant pace attack is something which could, in all probability, dictate the outcome of this match. Bangladesh's top order has had its share of problems this year, which reflects in this constant shuffling of openers in their number 3. Now, added to that, the lack of runs from Shakib Al Hasan over the past few months, that has made the situation tougher for them. And then the big news, Bangladesh are going to be without their most informed player, Najmul Hussain Shanto. He is out with a hamstring injury. He's out of the tournament, in fact, because they want him fit for the World Cup. But he will be replaced by Liton Das, who has flown to Lahore to join the team. So Liton's likely to open the innings. And then that again means that that batting order will be shuffled. How they play against Pakistan's pace attack? That's the big question. For Pakistan, they really are the favourites since they are playing at home. They look like a well-oiled machine. There's one change in their batting lineup. How confident is this Pakistan team where they're announcing they're playing 11 on the eve of the matches? They did that against India. They've done it again. There's just one change in their batting lineup where Mohammad Nawaz, he has made way for their medium pacer, Fahim Ashraf. And that's a good decision. But we'll find that out from Jamie and Chetan as well. The only concern that Pakistan might be feeling right now is possibly that dip in form for Fakhar Zaman. Otherwise, they've got all their bases covered, Jamie. And this is one of those matches where, despite the fact, surprisingly, it's Bangladesh who have a better record in the last 5 times that these two teams have met. But it's Pakistan who will go in as outright favourites in this game?
Yes, to my mind, it is Pakistan because of the way they crushed Nepal in Multan, because of the way, yes, I know that Hardik Pandya and Ishan Kishan did put on that partnership, but I still feel Pakistan had the upper hand in that rain-reduced match, which in the end only gave them 1 point. And they're back in Lahore, where they've done well. Babar Azam likes batting here, and just given that pace attack, I think what they gained by having those 3, and now with Fahim Ashraf, it totally offsets another couple poor matches if it were to happen for Fakhar Zaman, because we've discussed the stability that this Pakistan team sort of seems to have. There was a time earlier this year when I think Fakhar Zaman got what, 300s in a row against New Zealand, and then the form is dipped off. But still, because the others are doing so well, it gives a team, a rather wildly unpredictable team, at the best and worst of times, the stability to still persist with him, because they know what a big match player he is. He's done it to India, in the Champions Trophy final. So he's one of those players where they'll give him, like they've given certain Indian players, the Indian management gives them a longer rope because of what they've done. I think definitely more than an Imam ul Haq and more than Iftikhar Ahmed. It's what Fakhar Zaman has done in the past, which is what is giving him borrowed time, we can say, in this Asia Cup. But absolutely, Pakistan outright favorites to my mind.
Now for Bangladesh, this is one format they enjoy the most, and they've got good results here. They also have this rivalry with Pakistan. We all remember the 1999 World Cup, Chetan, in Northampton. And, I was reading the story of when they won, what it was like. And the team went to an Indian restaurant, and the chefs there, they were very nice to them because they'd beaten Pakistan. So there is that rivalry there. I want to ask you though, for Bangladesh, how difficult will it be today, given what India faced against Pakistan in the pace attack that Pakistan have for Bangladesh's top order, especially because they don't have a structured top order, they keep shuffling and changing it around. How tough will it be?
No, as we've been discussing, Pakistan are the team to beat in this competition. Obviously, coming back and playing at Lahore, I mean, you can expect full crowds. This rivalry, even the Pakistani fans know what kind of rivalry this is, going back to that game in 1999. The memory of that particular game with me is Wasim Akram post-match saying that Bangladesh should get test status. And, Bangladesh did get it a couple of years later. But again, we've spoken about it so many times that it seems like Bangladesh at the moment are in a bit of a status, situation where they're not really growing. Bangladesh cricket not really growing. In terms of this particular match, I think the change that they've made is an interesting one, because they're taking out one spin option and they're bringing in another pace option, because probably they feel on the kind of a flatter surface, spin is something that Bangladesh perhaps will be able to play really easily, and getting in that one base, another pace option is an important strategic point. In terms of batting, obviously it elongates their batting. Both of them, both Nawaz and Fahim Ashraf, they are both bowling all-rounders. So it just elongates their batting a bit. Yes, the worry is there for Fakhar Zaman. I think he's waiting for the game against India to come back into form. But apart from that, I would say that, this particular game, Bangladesh will find it tough. Home support, Pakistan at Lahore, on a flatter track where they're taking out a spin element. I think Bangladesh will have their work cut out.
Do you just get the feeling, Jamie, that this Pakistan team is on a mission? It's more than just what they're doing on the field, but it almost seems to me that it's a team that believes that the world is against us. We're out there to prove something. And add to that the fact that, the Asia Cup was shifted out of Pakistan. They only have 2-3 matches here. So to prove a point, to just say that we're the best, I feel like there is that narrative around them as well. Do you agree?
To a large extent, yes, because like discussed on previous shows, there's not a lot going right for Pakistan as a whole, right? So if we just zero it down to a cricketing viewpoint, like you said, the Asia Cup, all that went back and forth there. Now again, we've seen that they're miffed with the fact that Jay Shah gave a statement saying we're not shifting the matches out. So from that perspective, even beyond the obvious realm of India versus Pakistan relations. This does seem to be a sorted Pakistan team. We've discussed on past shows, all three of us, the role of Babar Azam being very level-headed, the kind of captaincy that he instills in the other players through his decisions. He's very calm himself. It helps being a very, very fine batsman in the peak form of his white ball career. But definitely, which again brings us to a very interesting standpoint. 92 ends up being the biggest reference point when it comes to Pakistan because that remains the only World Cup they've won, right? But the disheveled nature of their pre-campaign, the way the first 3-4 matches, went. Similarly, in 1999, they were not in any tremendous one-day form. They won a lot of tournaments and quadrangulars and triangulars in the UAE, but there was enough internal problem going into the 99 World Cup that left people, somewhat doubtful of their skills. But then they went and they got to the final there as well, Terrible final that Australian team smashed them. So it's very tough to say in a World Cup or in the month leading up to a World Cup what vibes any Pakistan team can give. Only because they're so unpredictable. While they're settled, we've discussed their stability, while things are going well for them, things with Pakistan could change after one defeat or, so I don't know. It's very, very tough. My point is to predict what we can read from a certain Pakistan team heading into a World Cup.
So I've always wondered, announcing the playing 11 on the eve of the match, is that helpful? Is that a statement? Is that telling your team that, what, this is our playing 11, you figure out what you want to do against us? Chetan?
Well, the playing 11s within the dressing room are announced a day before the game. So that's standard practice. I mean, the Pakistan dressing room would know who is playing next day. It's standard practice across all teams. Even the Indian team knows a day before the game who is playing and who isn't. So within the dressing room, I don't know what it changes, releasing the playing 11 to the world. But outside the dressing room, of course, you're trying to give you're trying to make the point, give the impression that you are at your most confident self. And we have spoken about it, that Pakistan are the favorites in this tournament. I think they're keeping up with that. By announcing these playing 11s every day before the game. They're saying, look, you think that we are the favorites to win the trophy. We agree with you. We are very confident that we want to win this trophy. We are hosting this Asia Cup, political shenanigans aside. So we want to win this Asia Cup at our home, and or the fact that we are hosting it. And, we want to go into the World Cup by winning this major trophy. So I think they're sending that message across to the world. And I think we are agreeing with them that they are the favorites, and the likes of Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, they'll have to pull a rabbit out of the hat, especially India. To win this Asia Cup, India will have to beat Pakistan twice, at least once in the final. I mean, they have to reach the final first. So that's not going to be easy.
The other thing, Jamie, is that I feel this is going to be a tense situation for India and Pakistan, of course, when they play on Sunday, on the 10th of September, and then, of course, possibly the final if they both, are the top two teams in the Super Fours. And why I'm saying this is now that all eyes are on these two teams in this Asia Cup with an eye to the World Cup. You're thinking, whatever happens now on September 10th or in the final later on possibly is going to somewhat give you an idea of what they are going to do in the World Cup, right? I mean, that's how it'll be. And the fact that whoever wins this will have that psychological advantage. It's in similar conditions, and you've done everything. India has done everything, in that World Cup to make sure that they have the best of the conditions, the way their matches are scheduled. But having said that, how much would this be about that statement win, the psychological advantage, the mind games? In whoever wins the India-Pakistan match?
Yeah, I mean, that's the case in all of these matches, because since 2013, they've only met either in ICC events or in the Asia Cup, right? But I think, there's no point looking back too far down the road in the rearview mirror. It's about just looking, what's happening right now. Pakistan got that statement win, 230, 240 odd runs over Nepal. Uh, Dominated the majority of that one innings against India. Rain, I think we're all in agreement that Rain probably, especially when it came down to 155 off 20 overs, that Pakistan had the advantage. Of course, until the ball was bowled, until the whole game was completed, we would actually never know. But you have to sort of see what is the momentum that Pakistan has. Pakistan, via that 1 point they got from that washout, they were already in the Super Fours. This is already factoring in the home condition advantage they have from their matches being played in Multan, in Lahore. Number one ranked team. What does India actually have to show? Forget against playing Pakistan, against any other team. What does India actually have to show? Yes, ranked number 3, but beyond that, a rather checkered white ball form. If you just look at cricket since the IPL, starting with that series lost to Australia, a really wake up call in my mind for many people, because they'd bossed New Zealand, they'd bossed Sri Lanka, then they lose to Australia, a team which probably all of us agree are the favorites for this World Cup. So matchups, history, political shenanigans, like Chetan mentioned, that's all there. But right now, heading into Sunday's match, Pakistan, to my mind, before even being counted tournament favorites, they've got a massive win against Nepal. They've got Shaheen Afridi taking 4 against India. They've got Naseem Shah taking 3. They've got Haris Rauf doing very well. So their battery of pace bowlers is already way better than India's. Now, if they happen to steamroll Bangladesh, the momentum they'll take. India don't play a match. India have got some 5-day gap now, of which one whole day was spent afterwards analyzing their World Cup squad. So what advantage do India really have? Not much. And I'm sure there's going to be worries, there's going to be tremors, because Virat Kohli's not been tested since Shaheen Shah Afridi got his number. Shreyas Iyer has not been tested. Rohit and Shubman Gill played Nepal, but as good as they looked, it was still Nepal, right? So my question is to anyone watching, what advantage, what confidence do India take into a match against Pakistan, coming off their last match against Pakistan? Barring Ishan Kishan and Hardik Pandya, 0, right?
But still, if India end up winning that game, all that momentum that Pakistan have got, Chetan, that would amount to nothing. Because it comes down to that big encounter, right? If we, and it's not that this team is not capable of winning or beating Pakistan, by a huge margin. We're not talking about that. So what I'm trying to say is that probably is the best way for India to build that momentum for the World Cup. Beat Pakistan in the match on Sunday in an emphatic manner. And that confidence, I feel like that confidence would bode well for them come the World Cup.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that beating Pakistan is going to give you a lot of confidence, especially after that last batting performance. They'll obviously have to improve on that to beat Pakistan. But I don't think, this is what we are thinking.
Yeah.
And what we are thinking is very different from how they are thinking in the Indian dressing room. I don't think they see it as a problem. I don't think they saw the 266 as a problem, given the way that they did not bat against Nepal in the next game. So I'm not sure what they are thinking. We are seeing that, the batting is undercooked. They perhaps are not seeing it that way. Obviously, they'll have a few days net sessions under their belts leading up to that game, rain allowing in Colombo, of course. So it just remains to be seen how they approach that particular game. I totally agree with you that India needs to build confidence. And not only just confidence, they need to build intensity. They need to build focus. If the game against Nepal is any clue, the intensity wasn't there. The passion wasn't there. The focus wasn't there. This is a side which will be playing a home World Cup in a month's time.
Exactly.
And only Rohit Sharma looked like he actually cared about that game against Nepal, being the captain and all. And the way he scored those runs, he was probably sending a message out to his dressing room. Look, this is the opposition we are playing. This is how it needed to be, this game needed to be treated. Like Jamie had said, that they absolutely needed to spank Nepal. And I thought Jamie would be happy with how Rohit batted, because Rohit actually spanked Nepal. The way he batted, he made a point given his patchy form. He was looking so confident, playing those shots and everything. So the focus is needed, the energy is needed, the passion is needed, the intensity is needed, the confidence is needed. My only thing is they'll perhaps not be approaching just a singular game against Pakistan, but perhaps looking to build all of that in the run of games. They're playing 4 games in the next 8 days, counting the final as well, assuming they're playing the final, or
But
3
you know,
games
that's the
in the
thing.
next
I'm sorry, just
6
one second.
days.
But I feel like
Yeah.
it'll make a huge difference if they beat Pakistan, not the other teams.
It will.
That is
It
the
will. It
biggest
will.
game for
Yeah.
India. You know, as much as we may say right now, at this moment, as we're building up to the World Cup, it really is about beating the #1 ODI team. That was clearly, if you see the last game that they played against Pakistan, were the better team.
I am absolutely agreeing with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely agreeing with you. But I'm just telling you how they probably might be thinking that, okay,
Sure.
you know what? Yes, we need to beat Pakistan, but even if we don't, we still have the other 2 games to build our intensity focus. I'm just giving you the thought process
Absolutely, I
in
get
that
that.
Indian dressing room, which has been there for the last 2-3 months. But I absolutely agree with you. Beating Pakistan is an absolute must. Even if you go to the final after beating Sri Lanka and Bangladesh,
Yeah,
it's not going to give you that boost
absolutely.
what beating Pakistan would do for the final. So,
Yeah.
it remains to be seen how they approach that game.
Yeah, I feel like this just sort of will give you an idea of how India is looking at it. I also feel like this will be that game which will probably be the start of that momentum building phase for India, because what we have seen so far, Jamie, is this team that we don't think will go on to either win the Asia Cup or the World Cup. And so that's why I feel like this, if India can beat Pakistan in an emphatic manner on Sunday, that could be the start of what we are expecting, because otherwise you just need, I don't know, what all would you need to win the World Cup? Yes, Jamie?
No, exactly. I'm on the same page. So 2 things. Basically, what picking up on what Chetan said, it says, right, what we have been saying and analyzing and assuming, writing, talking about the Indian team in a World Cup year, the worry for me is that what actually is probably happening is the most disturbing part, right? We have amped up our own analysis, our own reading of this game because it's a World Cup year, and it's been 12 years since India got their hands on a World Cup. But like Chetan is saying, probably the fact that they're thinking along different lines is actually worrisome. You know, the fact that they might be thinking, chalo, if we lose again, we have that. To me, I hope that's not what they're thinking. But given the indications of the past few months, it is, like Chetan saying, probably how they're thinking. Right now, coming back to India, Pakistan, just look at last year. This same time, India had #1 T20I team, beaten everyone at home. Then they go and they have a dismal Asia Cup. But one narrow, heart-stopping win for the ages, right, against Pakistan, it suddenly, I won't say transformed, but it showed a picture of a very, very different Indian team. You know, yes, there was luck. Had Little Das not slipped and not been run out, for all we know, Bangladesh would have beaten India, right?
Yeah.
So while it did not transform India into a T20 World Cup winning team, as that semi-final showed, it did sort of give them a lot of confidence. So beating Pakistan, same page as you asked, Chetan, I'm right there. They need to win. Is it going to happen? I had serious doubts. Are they going to get a statement win? I don't think at all. But even if they win by 1 run, 2 run, 5 runs, 7 wickets, it's still a massive win, which on the basis of history could transform this team.
I also feel there was a slight difference. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that was that Asia Cup and then the T20 World Cup was to be played in Australia. So you always kept thinking that whatever happened in Asia Cup, the conditions are going to be very different, and somehow we always felt more threatened by England, Australia, given that this was happening in Australia, right? This time it's different. I just get the feeling that Pakistan are much better placed than Australia and England right now because India are the host for the World Cup. And that's why the importance is even more. Yes, Chetan?
No, while I agree with you, but, you know, a game against Pakistan, what also it does is, a victory in a game against Pakistan, what it also does is it changes the narrative. Right now, Indian cricket needs to change the narrative around this team. They're not very fussed about it. Like Rohit Sharma said, I don't really care what's happening on the outside. But look at the negativity. In every discussion, we are looking to find out weaknesses. When have we last talked about the strengths of the Indian team? Because we cannot see any strength at the moment. The batting is so undercooked. The bowling is so undercooked. They're very good on paper.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I saw a tweet on Twitter. It just said, you know, which team looks very strong on paper. And if I think about it, India looks really strong on paper, given given the history of these players, given the stories of all of these players. But look at the negativity that surrounds the narrative at the moment with what's happened in the West Indies, with what happened against Australia in the home series. So we're looking for a turning point. Like Jamie said, even a one-run win against Pakistan changes the story, turns the narrative around. Like you mentioned, that ifs and buts piece in that particular newspaper, we'll stop writing ifs and buts if we win against Pakistan. That's what a win against Pakistan does.
Yeah. Yeah, you've queued me up to that article. In fact, I have that open right now in Indian Express, Sriram Veera, and it's beautifully written, because that's exactly, it resonates with me, and it resonates with all of us, because what he's writing is that he's saying that keeping with the trend of lack of exemplary planning or confident punts, further hit by injuries, and above all by the fear of lack of balance, India have gone in with a squad that's neither here nor there. It's fear or apprehension that leaps out of the selection. And I feel like that narrative, like you said as well, Chetan, that will change if India beat Pakistan. He says, what if our number 8 to number 11 don't get 20 runs? And that's exactly what we've been talking. And that's, ironically, that's exactly what Ajit Agarkar and Rohit Sharma also said in the press conferences about trying to figure out that balance. But have you got the balance? Have you compromised on, better players because you wanted to get that balance? Should you have gotten Ashwin in? Should you, Shardul Thakur, will he really be able to deliver with the bat and the ball, which you are expecting out of him, which is what he goes on to write. What if our spinner beat Ashwin or Yuzvendra Chahal get hit and don't score runs? So that's why they've been kept out. What if top 3 fail? What if opposition spinners like Zampa or Rashid Khan outspin Indian spinners? What if Jasprit Bumrah isn't quite at its fluent best? So, there are all of these questions, and somehow I feel like this could be the start of that change that more than 1 billion people right now want from this Indian team. Gautam Gambhir, now this is what he had to say. This is the quote. Gautam Gambhir has been in the news after what happened in that controversy with that obscene gesture. This is what he said. He has backed Ishan over Rahul, and strong words there. He says, tell me something, what is more important, to win a championship, name or form? If Rohit or Virat Kohli had scored something similar, 4 consecutive 50s, would you still say that KL Rahul would replace them? Ishan Kishan has done everything possible to become the front runner. We're only making this argument because he hasn't played as many international matches as Rahul. Because this is another key point that we guys will be discussing in the days to come, right? Even on September 10th, will it be KL Rahul or will it be Ishan Kishan? Again, form of Ishan Kishan over what KL Rahul has achieved. Do you think that the team management, Jamie, will still go with KL Rahul's, whatever he's done? And he's got great numbers. No one's denying that at number 4, at number 5, in fact.
I think for Sunday, they have no option but to back Ishan Kishan, only because it's Pakistan. You have beaten Nepal. Yes,
what better
Rohit
way
Sharma
than to
did.
put KL Rahul there and say, you know what, come back, show what you're doing. KL Rahul is not a newbie. KL Rahul is not Tilak Verma.
Yeah.
Put him in there.
Correct.
He knows how to handle pressure.
This,
That's the
exactly.
reason.
So
I'm just saying, if you want to really play KL Rahul in the World Cup, then throw him right there. You did that with Ishan Kishan in the last game. Against Pakistan.
So again, right, this goes back to what we and countless journalists, analysts discuss and what India will do, right? One is logical from the outside, one is logical from inside the Indian team, right? So this is the whole thing, right? Logic says, let's go. Not about status, not about seniority, not about like Gautam Gambhir said, who's played how many matches. It's about someone who has obvious talent. At one point, KL Rahul was, before Suryakumar Yadav came around, was one of India's most promising 3-format batsmen, right? I keep saying it because this generation, unfortunately, they have not seen what happened like 2 years ago. KL Rahul was doing sky-level things before Sky broke into the Indian team, right? But. That word but I'm going to say so many times because you mentioned our good friend Sriram Veera's article about ifs and buts, right? KL Rahul is a but and an if right now, right? Because he's not held a bat in anger for coming on 4 months. Ishan Kishan got 3 consecutive 50s against West Indies. Not even looking at where he batted. What point is he's got 3 50s backed by a really fine 81 in a tough situation against Pakistan, right? Just on the basis of that 81 runs, how can you compare what KL Rahul has done? And I'm the first person to say, I've gone on many shows talking about KL Rahul's number 5 stats. But right now, on the basis of the delayed inclusion of KL Rahul, right? On the basis of what Ishan Kishan did, the way he took on Rauf, Afridi, Naseem Shah, KL Rahul right now can only be in his dreams imagining to bat that way. This is why, to my mind, but who am I? Ishan Kishan will play. But it's India, it's Rahul Dravid, it's Rohit Sharma. It's a think tank which has confounded the best of minds. It's confounded Sriram Veera, believe you me, in the last 10 months. That's why it would not be impossible to see KL Rahul walk out. But in my book, and I know Chetan agrees, it would be the wrong decision.
The other thing being also, I agree that maybe you might want to, which may work in favor of Ishan Kishan, because what he has done that he has grabbed every opportunity that's been given to him. So yes, by all means, put him in there against Pakistan and hopefully he score runs. But my thing, Chetan, is then don't put him in with this idea that, oh, because it's Pakistan, let's protect KL Rahul. You know, he's coming. Don't do that. Because then what you're doing is, then you're being unfair to Ishan Kishan. What you're doing is that big, difficult game, Ishan Kishan, please go out there and score runs. And then, you know, let's just ease KL Rahul in, and then KL Rahul, come on, let you play the World Cup because we think you're a better player. And you're just being unfair to Ishan Kishan.
Well, first of all, Meha, they're not going to give us a reason why they're picking Ishan Kishan or KL Rahul or not picking either of them. They're not going to say, okay, you know what.
Well, they also said that they might play both of them.
Drop Shreyas Iyer or Hardik Pandya, or who are they going to drop? Who are they going to leave out? Leave out a bowler? I mean,
no idea.
I mean, like Jamie and I've said so many times, anything is possible. Anything is possible. But I agree with you. If you play Ishan Kishan, then you play him until and unless, you know, it becomes obvious that you need to give KL Rahul game time. Let's be honest, giving KL Rahul game time ahead of the World Cup is also important. So either you play Ishan Kishan for the rest of the Asia Cup, unless, of course, you know, you win the next 2 games, and the third game is then irrelevant because you've already made the final. So then you can play KL Rahul in that particular game. Or you say, okay, you know what, Ishan has been in such great form that he is the first choice pick for this Asia Cup, as he should be. And then, when the Australia series comes, KL Rahul will be tried in that particular series because we need to give KL Rahul game time. It's a tough balance. But that is why you pick a squad of 15, which is in form, which is fit enough to go to the World Cup a month later, which is something that India haven't done. So, despite everything, despite picking a squad that is very, very obvious, despite picking a playing 11, which is very, very obvious, they are still 1 month to go before the World Cup. They're still caught in this position where they need to drop an informed player to give game time to a player that they have picked despite fitness issues. This has been the storyline for the last 2 months, and it hasn't changed even now. And even now we are discussing about this. So, like you said, I agree with you. Like Jamie says, I agree. Make sure Ishan plays the entire Asia Cup and then give KL Rahul game time against Australia. That would be enough.
My thing is,
and then make a decision for the World Cup.
My thing is, this has been a storyline even last year. This was exactly what had happened, where you rushed KL Rahul for Asia Cup and then got him in the T20 World Cup, where India were the worst in the power plays. The worst or the second worst among all teams. Okay, Bangladesh have won the toss. They have opted to bat. Of course, big blow for Bangladesh. They will miss the services of Shanto, who has been their best batter. He's been ruled out of the tournament with a hamstring injury, but Liton Das is coming back, and you know, that's good news for them. This was from yesterday. In what turned out to be a thriller in Lahore, Sri Lanka beat Afghanistan by 2 runs to qualify for the Super Fours. After a loss to Bangladesh earlier, Afghanistan knew they needed to win the game in 37.1 overs to get their net run rate to qualification standards. And despite failing to reach their target of 292 in 37.1 overs, they still had a chance of qualifying. But they weren't aware of it. At the end of the 37th over, Afghanistan were 289 for 8. It meant they needed 3 runs off 1 ball to win by bettering Sri Lanka's net run rate. Take a look at that scorecard. Mohammad Nabi played a beautiful knock. 65 of, I think, 32 deliveries, which included 6 sixes, and gave Afghanistan the belief that they could, in fact, qualify. So, what happened then? Mujibur Rahman, after blocking 2 deliveries, he holed out to long on, and they thought it was all over. But it wasn't. Afghanistan could have still qualified if they were to get their score up to 295 in 37.5 overs, essentially with a single 6. But incredibly, it appeared this wasn't communicated to the Afghan players or the coach. So, Farooqi came in, Fazalak Farooqi, as the number 11 player. He played out 2 defensive strokes before being trapped LBW while attempting a 3rd block. So, they could have qualified with 297 after 38.1 overs. Close to 39 overs, they had no idea. They thought it was all over. Afghanistan's head coach, Jonathan Trott, he has in fact confirmed this, saying that his team was unaware of the calculations. We were never communicated those calculations, he said. All we were communicated was we needed to win in 37.1 overs. We weren't told what the overs were in which we could get 295 or 297 and that we could win in 38.1 overs. That was never communicated to us. And it was heartbreaking really, because Afghanistan till that point had turned things around for themselves. Mohammad Nabi's innings, like I said, it gave them hope, it gave them belief, but it wasn't to be. So let's take reactions from Jamie and Chetan on this. Takes you back to South Africa versus Sri Lanka in the World Cup. Jamie? Mark Boucher blocking the delivery, thinking they would be through, but the game was tied and South Africa were out.
Absolutely, and already the quick-witted pundits of Twitter have already said, "Oh, it's you trust a South African to not know what's happening in Jonathan Trott." Look, in this day and age, it's not about Jonathan Trott. It's not about anyone. If you're in a position to be the head coach of an international team with designs on winning tournaments, you cannot be saying no one told us, right? Look, it was not. I think it's very, very important to differentiate that this was not a rain-reduced match where the umpires, on-field umpires, can constantly tell the non-striker and striker what's happening. This was not that scenario. Whether Jonathan Trott is 100% right in saying that this is what he was told, again, like we discussed with Gautam Gambhir and his middle finger gesture, it's one man's word against the other. I found it a bit surprising that Jonathan Trott used that excuse. If we sitting at home were being told what the scenario was, how could the Afghanistan dressing room, the coaching staff, not know what was going on, right? So I just find it as Afghanistan's South Africa moment.
Though I find it, I mean, I'm curious to know whether it's the match officials who will tell you this, or is it your own analysts who are sitting and telling you this?
No, I'll tell you what really happens in such a scenario. I've been in a few broadcast boxes. So the calculation that was told to Afghanistan that they need to win in 37.1 overs, that's the match calculation. The 295, 297 thing is calculated by the statistician in the broadcast box. That's just being communicated for a better broadcast, etc., etc. It's not. I don't even know if the match officials were aware about it. And like Jamie said, it was not a rain-affected game, so there was no DL calculation. It was a simple net run rate calculation. It was not a DL calculation. It was a net run rate calculation, and it was calculated by the statistician who are sitting there, who are employed by the broadcaster in the broadcast box. The first calculation of 37.1 overs is the match calculation, which was communicated by the match officials to Afghanistan, which is why they did not know and had absolutely no way of knowing unless and until they were listening to the match broadcast in the dressing room, which they don't. They only put on the television. They don't listen to the commentary. Otherwise, they'll be listening to people criticizing them live on air. So the commentary is muted. So that is why they had absolutely no way of knowing, because the broadcaster even did not put it on a ticker. They did not put it there. They were only putting the 37.1 over. So this was calculated by the statistician.
Yeah,
And it was
just
only
need to
told,
hire
even
better
during the broadcast,
statistician.
it was only told. It was only announced around over number 34 or over number 35. It was not announced throughout the inning. So Jonathan Trott, in a way, is right. They had absolutely no way of knowing it. And it could not have been communicated to him because it was not probably even known to a match official. And it was not really in the official guidelines to probably tell him. So that is where heart goes out to them. And yes, you can compare with the South Africa-Sri Lanka series, but that was a rain-affected game. This was a net run rate calculation.
Yeah, I get
and
that. But it's
simply
still
calculated by
calculation
a
error or being
It's one of those things that
ignorant
happens,
about,
really.
yeah. No, but it cannot happen. They could have been in the Super Fours. That would have been a huge moment for them. Need to hire a statistician now,
Yeah.
especially in these tournaments, to just make sure you don't
Or
leave
just put on-
anything.
Or just put on the commentary.
Yeah, put
in
somebody
the
else
dressing
there.
room,
Now they anyway
really.
have this this big entourage of, you know, the support staff, this and that. Maybe get a statistician in there. Now I'm told Chetan needs to go, so we'll let him go. Chetan, thanks so much for taking the time out. Let's just quickly come back to the match. Today's game, it's Bangladesh versus Pakistan in Lahore at the Gaddafi Stadium. And Bangladesh have won the toss. They have opted to bat first. What can we expect from Bangladesh batting first, where you know, the likes of Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah and Haris Rauf will be breathing fire at them straight away. Jamie's reaction we'll just take, but let's take a look at Bangladesh's playing 11. Shakibul Hasan had said that they'll want to bat first, no particular reason other than the heat, and they want to put runs on board so that they can put pressure on Pakistan. They've also said that there is one change which we were all already discussing, that Shanto is not playing and Liton Das has replaced him. So that is Bangladesh's playing 11. Let's also put Pakistan's playing 11 as we wrap this up. We take final reaction from Jamie, but Pakistan's playing 11 was already announced on the eve of this match. And there's just one change from the last game where Fahim Ashraf has come in place of Mohammad Nawaz. Another reason possibly being because Bangladesh have many left-handers in their squad as well, and Mohammad Nawaz not that impressive. Okay, Jamie, predictions time. What are you expecting? Don't just give me Pakistan likely to win. Give me a more specific answer.
Yep.
What will Bangladesh score be after 20 overs or 10 overs maybe?
I think Bangladesh have made the right call, because this is the Gaddafi Stadium. Runs are there. 300 is not a big deal. But that said, they have to contend with Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah, and Haris Rauf. If they can sort of show the pluck that is required against these teams, I think they could get in the realm of 260, 270, which would still, I believe, not be a match-winning score. But I don't think Pakistan are going to roll them out. You want a score after 20 overs? I would see them being somewhere around 115 for 3. And I think this is the day when Shakib Al Hasan really needs to stand out. Overall, if they bat the full quota around 260, maybe 275, but I still have Babar Azam finishing this match for Pakistan.
And also this is a flat track. 300 plus have been all the totals that we've seen here. So let's see how that turns out. Jamie Alter, thank you so much for joining us here. We're going to wrap this up. Just as we say goodbye, coming up after the break, India's bid for a UN Security Council seat is blocked by a bunch of self-serving nations. This 1945 era rules means that India's contribution to the UN spanning many decades is ignored. The rules of the game have to be tweaked for any real change. Watch this. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Chat GPT, It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
Support new permanent seats for Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan.
France thus supports the candidacies of Germany, Brazil, India, and Japan.
The United Arab Emirates reiterates its endorsement of India's bid for permanent membership.
India can become a permanent member of the Security Council.
We note India and Brazil in particular as key international actors and worthy candidates for permanent membership within the Council.
Getting a seat at the United Nations Security Council is like getting entry into the most exclusive geopolitical club of the world. But the biggest problem that this mid-20th century club faces is that the music being played is out of sync from the realities of 21st century world. The composition of the council in 2023 does look a lot like 1945, and India's bid to enter this VIP club is facing bottlenecks.
Please remember that India's permanent membership of an expanded, reformed United Nations Security Council is not an India-specific issue. There are many other countries there. We have a G4, there's Germany, there's Japan, I think there's Brazil and India. And so we are also trying to say regional representation. So it's not India-specific. What does the preamble to the Charter state? We, the people of the United Nations. Happy birthday. You keep out 1/6 of humanity and you say, we, the people of the United Nations.
Our bid for UN Security Council membership predates that of the present government. But the present government is much better positioned today than in the past to push for it. So we have sufficient support in terms of number of countries to take the plunge. Because if you have 80 or 90 committed, in a way, because of joint statement supporters, plus the fact that India has now taken the leadership of the global south, especially during the pandemic. So in that sense, we are building up a strategy of wider support which can become 2/3 in case it goes to vote.
The United Nations Security Council comprises 15 members, and out of this, 10 are temporary, and the 5 permanent members are the United States, United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. And here's the rules of the game, which are that all permanent members have to be on the same page for ratifying a decision or pass a resolution. And this utopian rule ensures that there's a deadlock on majority of the issues, as it is an impossible ask to have all 5 members in sync.
For example, in terms of Russia's conduct of the war in Ukraine, China threatening Taiwan, that kind of thing. And the veto power of the 5 existing members, of course, is enough to block any change in the composition of the council, because to do that, you need a UN charter amendment. And to approve a charter amendment, among other things, you need all 5 permanent members of the Security Council to agree. So
there is the veto, including on expansion. And also, as long as some countries in P5 are still holding back, I think we have the support of the P3 and probably Russia. But I think now the Chinese are very much blocking. So I think we need to work around the strategy where we can neutralize that.
Going back in history, India was one of the founding members of the United Nations. Even before we got our independence, we had signed the San Francisco Charter. We helped set up the United Nations. But a certain narrative suggests that we were offered a seat at the Security Council, but that offer was gift-wrapped and handed over to China.
I would be inclined to believe it was not serious. It was part of what diplomatic, diplomatic engagement with India, trying to prop up India for the purposes of the West as a democracy against authoritarianism of the Soviet Union and China. But at that time, China was the Republic of China, which was that is Taiwan today, which was a permanent member, not Communist China. So it's not a very clear affair. So I won't reach any definitive conclusions on this.
Some diffidence, if I may say so. I don't know if it was a blunder. I don't know if we were strong enough at that time to take on the responsibilities. We just emerged from a colonial experience. We were the leaders of the colonial, the post-colonial world. We went to the Bandung Conference, then there was the non-aligned movement, all that. We were leaders there. But had we been in the UN Security Council, of course, it would have been a different ballgame altogether. We would have represented the interests of everyone.
So the question that arises is that why is it important for India to be a part of this exclusive club? Apart from representing 1/6 of humanity and being the largest democracy, India needs to be on board to ensure that its huge contribution over decades to the United Nations is finally acknowledged on the world stage. And this ranges from sustainable development to strategic equilibrium, from sending out peacekeeping forces to providing